Welcome to Rich C's Ghosts, where we dive into the weird and unknown. But here we explore ghosts, aliens, demons, ghouls, everything paranormal or weird. Join me, will you? Alabama's got more than just barbecue and football. You spend enough time in the woods out here, you start to notice things. Quiet patches of forest where the birds don't sing, creeks that smell like copper, and shadows that show up when nobody's around. Folks around here don't always call them cryptids, some call them boogers, others call them spirits, but whatever you name it, every part of this state's got something weird roaming the back roads. In the hills near Huntsville, something white and fast haunts the tree line. In Paint Rock, there's a man who moves like a possum and don't know how to stay dead. Down in Mobile, people have seen a woman with a wolf's face and even a leprechaun up a tree that made the news. There are stories of metal-skinned figures sprinting through pastures, creatures screaming in the woods with too many legs, and something out there pretending to be people. This ain't just backwoods storytelling, these are Alabama's cryptids. And we're going to go through a few of them. But fair warning, some of them have already met us. But enough blabber. Let's open the barn doors and roll into it. It's fast, it's silent, and it looks like a snowman had a baby with a linebacker. Folks around here call it the White Thang. And if you see it, chances are it already saw you first. This thing doesn't growl, doesn't talk, doesn't even breathe loud. It just moves. 1 minute it's standing behind a tree, the next it's gone like your ex after a love bomb. The White Thang has been seen all across northern Alabama, especially around Morgan, Etowah, and Jefferson counties. People say it's about 7-8 feet tall, covered in long, stringy white hair, and completely silent when it moves. It walks upright like a man, sometimes drops to all fours like a big cat, and has glowing red eyes. Some even say it lets out this high-pitched scream like a woman being murdered in the woods. But here's the weirdest part. Nobody agrees on what it is. Some say it's an albino Bigfoot, others think it's a ghost animal. I've even heard folks call it the reincarnation of a cursed Civil War soldier who came back looking like he lost a bet with the polar bear. Back in the early 70s, a man named Carl was driving home from a late shift near Happy Hollow Road just outside of Decatur. Around 2 a.m. he saw something white dart across the road and vanish into the tree line. Thinking it was just a deer, he slowed down. But when he looked again, he saw it standing upright, tall, shaggy, pale as snow, and staring straight at him from behind a tree. No movement, just glowing red eyes and breath fogging in the cold air. Paul says it was dead silent. No wind, no bugs, no night sounds, just this creature watching him. Then it dropped to all fours and vanished into the woods like a shot. He told his buddy the next day, who just said, "Oh yeah, that's the White Thang, don't worry. It don't kill people, but it'll scare the hell out of you." Comforting. Now I'm from northern Alabama, and I'll be honest, I've never heard about the White Thang growing up. Except maybe that one time I went to Boomer's there in Harvest, and that was just me getting called White Thang like I was the cryptid. Understandable. But for real, once I started asking around, I realized everybody's got a cousin, uncle, or neighbor who swears they saw something white and fast in the woods. Just enough to keep it creepy, and just believable enough to keep you out of the woods at night. So what is the White Thang? Some say it's a regional take on Bigfoot, just leaner and paler. Others think it's a spirit protector, like an old Appalachian guardian gone feral. There's even a theory that it's a shapeshifter, something that changes forms depending on who sees it. I would explain the wildly different descriptions. Some say it's covered in fur, others say it's hairless and muscular like a giant possum that's being lifting weights and holding grudges. But whatever it is, the one thing everybody agrees on, it don't make a sound. You'll see it, but you'll never hear it coming. So if you see something white and hairy dart across the road one night, maybe don't chase it. Just nod respectfully and go on about your business. She's tall, she's loud, and she hugs like your aunt at a family reunion if your aunt screamed like she was getting murdered while doing it. Her name's Huggin Molly, and depending who you ask, she's either a protective spirit or a full-blown nightmare in a church hat. Huggin Molly's one of the oldest legends out of the little town of Abbeville. Folks say she's over 7 feet tall, dressed all in black with a wide-brimmed hat, and always appears after sundown. She don't creep or tiptoe. Molly comes straight at you like she's late for church, wraps you up in a bear hug from the underworld, and lets loose a scream so sharp it'll rattle your fillings in your faith. She's usually seen around kids who are out too late, which is why a lot of folks say she's just an old school parenting tactic with ghostly side effect. A guy named Doug used to deliver newspapers in Abbeville back in the 80s. This was before podcasts and Bluetooth speakers. Just Doug, a Walkman, and whatever he saw in the empty streets at 4 a.m. One morning, he's on his route like usual when he starts to feel this chill. Not weather chill, but gut level, something ain't right kind of chill. He hears footsteps behind him. He turns. Nobody's there. He keeps pedaling. Suddenly he feels something grab him from behind, tied around his chest, and then comes this scream right in his ear. He said it didn't sound human. It sounded like grief and rage and something old that wasn't ready to move on. He ditched the bike and sprinted 3 blocks home. Never delivered on that street again. His boss docked his pay. Doug didn't care. Said, "I'll take broke over haunted any day of the week." Now, I'd heard of Huggin Molly growing up, but I didn't know the full story till way later. I thought she was just a weird warning for kids like go to bed or the hug lady comes. Turns out, no. She's got lore. She's got history. And she's got arms long enough to wrap around your regrets. Abbeville even has a restaurant named after her. It's called Huggin Molly's. Real cheerful vibe, old school soda shop inside. Meanwhile, there's this terrifying 7-foot Victorian ghost lady on the sign. Looks like a nice little diner though. I have to remember that if I'm down that way. Some say Molly was once a grieving mother who lost her child, now cursed to roam the streets, warning other kids not to stay out too late. Others say she was a midwife, or even a witch, whose spirit latched onto the town like a bad rumor. Either way, the legend stuck around for over 100 years and stories keep popping up. There's no documented attacks, no deaths, just loud screams, cold chills, and emotional damage that probably requires therapy. Parents still use her as a threat. You keep backing up and Huggin Molly's gonna come hug the attitude out of you. Like that's normal. So if you're walking through Abbeville and the wind shifts and you feel arms around you, don't panic. Just tell her you've been good, and maybe, just maybe, she'll scream in somebody else's face. Now there's also a story about her being shaped like a frog.
This frog lady won't stop yapping.
But I think that was just Jerry spitting out an all-time story at the liar's table one morning. So we're just going to go into our next cryptid. (1973). Small town of Folkville. A woman calls the police just after sundown, says she saw something land in a field near her house, thought it might be a plane or something worse. The police chief, Jeff Greenhole, grabs his keys and a Polaroid camera and drives out to check it out. What he finds isn't a crash site. There's no wreckage, no fire, just something standing in the field. At first, he thought it was a person, maybe a trespasser, but when he got closer, he saw it. A figure about 6 feet tall, completely covered in what looked like shiny metal. Not armor, more like a silver suit head to toe, like someone tried to make a robot out of leftover ductwork and bad decisions. The greenhall yelled out to it, no response. Just a thing standing there, arms down, not moving. So he did what any of us wouldn't do. He stepped closer and took a picture. The flash went off, and that's when the thing moved. Fast, it turned and ran. Jerky, strange, like it didn't know how knees worked, and took off across the field. Greenhall jumped in his cruiser, flipped the lights on, and tried to chase it. He said the thing moved faster than anything he'd seen on 2 legs. Said it never made a sound, just disappeared into the dark. The photos he took, blurry, grainy, classic 1970s paranormal evidence. You can barely make out the figure, but it's there. Shiny, humanoid, and unsettling as hell. Some folks said it was a hoax, that someone made a costume out of tinfoil and scared the chief for a laugh. Others think Greenhall made it up for attention, but he stuck to his story until the day he died. He said he knew what he saw, and he wished he hadn't. And then there's the believers, the ones who say it wasn't a prank. Wasn't a lie, but something real. Maybe alien, maybe something that's been here a lot longer than us. You gotta remember, this was 1973, a year full of UFO sightings across the US, and especially in the South. There were reports of strange lights, lost time, and encounters just like this one. Metallic figures, weird behavior, total silence. But Folkville? This one stuck. Maybe it was the photos. Maybe it was the fact that it came from a police chief instead of some guy in a bathrobe. Whatever it was, the Metal Man became part of Alabama lore, and nobody's really explained it since. You only had slight knowledge of the Metal Man. I remember the photos, but once you know about him, you start looking differently at those quiet fields. The ones that seem a little too still. The ones that make your skin itch when you drive by with the windows down, because maybe he's still out there, watching, or waiting, or trying to figure out how the hell that police chief got so close in the first place. Kind of sounds like something Dale from King of the Hill would wear in one of his conspiracy mental breakdowns. So, if you ever see a silver figure in a field, standing still and staring at you, don't be like Greenhall. Don't get out, don't take a picture. Just roll up the window, throw your phone out the car, and move states. Next, we got the Downey Booger. And if you've never heard of it, that's probably because the people who have don't like talking about it. It's one of Alabama's most aggressive cryptids. Hairy, mean, and fast. Some folks call it the river booger, some just call it that thing in the woods. Either way, it's not the kind of creature you bump into and laugh off later. The legend goes back more than 100 years. Sightings around the Downey community near Moulton in Lawrence County describe a creature standing 7 to 8 feet tall, covered in matted dark hair with long arms and glowing eyes. And it doesn't just watch you from the trees, it comes after you. It throws rocks, it howls, it chases folks off their land like it owns the place. Hunters report finding shredded tents, claw marks on trees 8 feet off the ground, and even the smell like wet dog mixed with dead things and gasoline. One guy said it smelled like a possum crawled into a tractor engine and died with regrets. Back in the early 2000s, a father and son were catfishing on a muddy stretch of the Black Warrior River. Real quiet night, fog starting to roll in. Then they hear something walking through the brush across the river, heavy, not a deer, not a hog. This thing was big. The dad hits the flashlight. Just for a second, the beam catches a shape, tall, broad-shouldered with these 2 eyes reflecting red, back at him. The thing doesn't flinch, doesn't run, just lets out this deep, guttural growl, and then hurls a rock the size of a cinder block across the river. It hits the bank next to them so hard, it splashes mud on the boat. The sun panics, drops the light in the water, darkness. They fire up the motor and get out of there, but the dad swears he saw it again, watching them from the riverbank as they pulled away, not chasing, just watching. Man, some folks say it's territorial, like a forest guardian gone rogue. Others think it's a flesh and blood creature, a regional type of Bigfoot, but more aggressive, less shy. Something that didn't get the memo to stay hidden. But there's a creepier theory, one that says the Downey Booger isn't a creature at all. It's a spirit, something cursed or summoned, a punishment placed on that land. That's why it doesn't show up in trail cams, why it leaves tracks that suddenly stop mid-stride, like it just vanished. And if you talk to older folks in the area, they'll tell you this thing's been seen for generations, and the sightings always start in the same way. Quiet woods, bad feeling. Then the sounds, snapping branches, low growls, and if you stay too long, rocks. Now, I've done some hiking in Alabama, and I'll be real with you, I've heard stuff in the woods I couldn't explain, but I never stuck around long enough to get introduced. You get that feeling in your stomach, that ancient, you're not supposed to be here kind of fear? Trust it. That's not anxiety, that's ancestral survival instinct. Man, if a creature throws a rock at me from across a river, that ain't wildlife. That's a warning. It's a Bigfoot with a short temper and a good fastball, and if it smells like burnt sadness and roadkill stew, nah, I'm gone. Some monsters hide. This one warned you first. And if you don't listen, well, maybe that's why we don't hear from everyone who meets it. In the spring of 1971, the city of Mobile, Alabama, was hit with something strange, something the local newspaper called a wave of terror. People across the city were reporting sightings of a creature that looked wrong. Part animal, part woman, all nightmare. They called it the Wolf Woman of Mobile. Over a span of several weeks, more than 50 calls came in to police. People claimed to see a creature with glowing eyes, long dark hair, fangs, claws, and the body of a woman, but moving like a wild animal. Some said she was naked. Some said she had fur. A few claimed she leapt onto roofs like a wolf on steroids. One woman said she saw it crouched in her backyard, growling low like it was waiting for something. When she turned the porch light on, the thing stood upright and bolted, leaping over a fence like it was nothing. Another man swore he saw her sprinting alongside his car at 30 miles per hour, keeping pace without breaking stride. He didn't even stop to look, just floored it and didn't go back down that road for weeks. Now here's where it gets even weirder. Nobody was ever attacked. There were no injuries, no torn up pets, just sightings, screams, and a whole lot of people locking their doors early. The Mobile Register actually ran the story. Reporters followed up with witnesses. Local police responded to calls. One of the officers even admitted, "We're getting calls and we don't know what it is, but people are scared." And then just like that, it stopped. The sightings dried up. No one ever caught it, no body, no footprints, just fear and some newspaper clippings that read like a horror movie pitch. And so what was it? Some folks think it was a werewolf. Others say it was an actual woman suffering from some kind of psychosis, running through the streets at night and spooking people. But here's the thing. This wasn't just one person seeing something in the dark. This was dozens of people, all describing the same thing. Another theory? Shapeshifter. Something spiritual. a skinwalker type entity, half in our world, half in whatever nightmare swamp it crawled out of. And then you've got the classic mobile answer, I don't know what it was, but I ain't going outside after dark no more. She didn't attack, didn't speak, just showed up, gave folks a reason to sleep with the lights on, and bounced like she had other cities to haunt. And maybe that's what makes her scary. She didn't want to hurt anybody, she just wanted you to know she was there. And sometimes that's worse. It's like she put Mobile in the friend zone.
I do look up in the tree. Who else in the leprechaun say yeah?
Before we leave Mobile, I feel like we have to talk about another cryptid, the Leprechaun of Mobile. Back in 2006, local news station WPMI ran a segment that blew up nationwide. Folks in a Mobile neighborhood had gathered because, according to multiple witnesses, a leprechaun was hiding in a tree, and gave us this legendary line.
To me, it look like a leprechaun to me. All I gotta do is look up in the tree. Who else in the leprechaun say yeah?
Yes, a full-blown leprechaun, little green man, hat, magic, the whole thing. One woman said,
Could be a crackhead that got hold to the wrong stuff.
Another said the leprechaun only comes out at night. Someone even sketched up a police-style leprechaun drawing on notebook paper, and they held it up on camera. Terrifying. And then you got the guy with the leprechaun
This is a
flute.
special leprechaun flute, which has been passed down from thousands of years ago.
A piece of PVC pipe passed down from his great-great-grandfather who was Irish. Iconic, legendary. The best part? People weren't even mad. They were excited. There were lawn chairs, binoculars, kids pointing at the tree like it was a Disney character meet and greet. To this day, nobody knows what started it. Some say it was a prank, some say it was mass hysteria, others say maybe there was something up in that tree. Something small, something smug, something with a pot of gold and a wicked sense of humor. Man, I don't know what kind of day you're having when you look up at a tree and say, yeah, that's definitely a leprechaun, but I hope I never get that bored or that blessed, honestly. I've seen folks chase UFOs, Bigfoot, even a goat in a Halloween mask, but only in Mobile do you get binoculars, a treasure map, and somebody blowing on a plastic flute like it's going to summon gold. They call him the Possum Man of Paint Rock. And if that name alone doesn't tell you you're deep in Alabama, nothing will. This one's a lesser known backwoods legend, part man, part possum, and all kinds of wrong. He's said to live in the hollers around Paint Rock near Jackson County. Folks say he's got patchy fur, gray skin, and eyes that glow in the dark like twin boiled eggs under a heat lamp. Some say he walks on two legs, some say he crawls on all fours like his joints don't work right. Others claim he's more man than creature, just too far gone to come back. Either way, if you see him, it's usually when you're somewhere you shouldn't be. Now, I only knew about the Possum Man growing up, but that's cause it turned out to be my buddy Rick's Uncle Jim. He used to get drunk on wild turkey, disappear into the woods, and pop back up 3 days later, wearing a possum pelt and no pants, talking about how the forest forgives. Nice guy, weird diet. But the real Possum Man, that's something different. The first big story came from a group of teens in the early 2000s. They were out spotlighting deer when they caught a flash of gray up on a ridge. At first they thought it was just a big old possum. Then it stood up, not fully upright, but enough to let them know it had shoulders. One of the kids swore it hissed at them with a mouth full of jagged yellow teeth, then skittered off sideways into the brush like it was double jointed. Another encounter came from a turkey hunter who was setting up before dawn. He heard rustling behind him and turned, expecting a deer. What he saw was something crouched low with wiry arms and glowing eyes, just staring. Said it didn't make a sound. Just watched him. Then it flipped over backwards and crawled away like a crab possessed by roadkill. There's also this running rumor that the Possum Man can play dead, like perfectly. One guy swore he hit it with his truck and stopped to check, only for the thing to leap up and slap his windshield before running off into the trees. He never drove that road again. Sold the truck, bought a bike. So what is it? Some think it's a man who got left out in the woods too long and just gave up on society, went feral, learned to eat grubs and fake his own death like a possum with taxes. Others say it's a cursed creature, someone who messed with something they shouldn't have and got stuck halfway between human and marsupial. One theory claims the Possum Man is a shapeshifter tied to Appalachian folklore, a being that pretends to be harmless until you get too close and then it drops the act. Either way, the stories keep coming. People hearing scratching on their cabin walls at night, strange screeches from the treetops, the smell of wet fur, and bad decisions floating on the wind. Now, I've done some nights swimming in Paint Rock at the quarry with Luther Green, and I've definitely heard things I didn't want to investigate. But nothing prepares you for the idea that something might be watching you upside down from a pine tree. But it was probably just little Luther Jr. The Possum Man doesn't chase people, doesn't talk, he just shows up, watches, and disappears. And somehow that's worse, because if you're deep in the woods and you hear a hiss behind you, you're not thinking it's a raccoon. You're thinking Rick's Uncle Jim finally snapped and joined the possum realm. And if it ain't him, well, maybe it's time to head back to town. For decades, folks near Tuscaloosa have whispered about a figure in crimson. They call him the Crimson Shade. Always seen at dusk, standing motionless at the edge of the woods, arms crossed, staring. Not threatening, but not friendly either, just judging. Locals say he's been seen before tragedies, weather events, playoff losses, but also after moments of glory, standing just beyond the stadium lights, like a phantom, like a coach who never sleeps. One farmer claims he saw the shade walk across the field without leaving a single footprint. Another says it appeared in his living room during halftime of the 2017 National Championship and whispered, "Adjust the secondary coverage." There's even one story of him straight possessing a drunkard named Willie, causing him to go on rants and making him not give a piss about anything but the tide. Never eats, never blinks on camera. People say it moves in complete silence, but you'll always hear Roll Tide echo somewhere nearby when it disappears. Wildlife avoids it, especially tigers and eagles. The NCAA went blind when trying to investigate it. One guy swears his dog started barking the Alabama Fight song when it passed by. And when people finally got close enough to describe its face, short, stone-faced, intense eyes, always in crimson, always analyzing. Some say it's a ghost, some say it's a demon, others say it's a deal with something far deeper than the SEC. But if you've ever walked through Tuscaloosa at night and felt like someone was watching your form, your footwork, your hustle, just remember, he's still out there. Probably already scouted your tape, probably knows your weaknesses. And his name is Nick Saban. Man, I don't know what he is. Some say he's a spirit. Others say he made a deal with the devil, got 7 championships, and all he had to give up was sleep, joy, and the ability to smile with his whole face. Tell you what I know though, I'm a Tennessee fan, and that man haunts me more than driving through Madison to Huntsville during rush hour or having to go to Sammy T's nightclub on New Year's. Just like a football poltergeist just appears in your nightmares, third and short, whispering quarterback pressure, and disappear into the mist. We finally beat him once, and I swear I heard thunder crack and the scent of cigar smoke roll across the Tennessee River like some SEC voodoo lifted off our backs. So if you're ever walking alone in the Alabama woods and you feel cold wind and judgment on your shoulders, don't look back. It's just Nick Saban, and he's already reviewing your mistakes on film. And hey, here is something that might truly scare you Alabamians. Dixieland Delight is a song about Tennessee. Go Vols. From shapeshifters and shadow creatures to swamp monsters and leprechauns and trees, Alabama's got enough cryptids to fill a whole damn roster. But don't worry, we're just getting started. Hit that like button before the Possum Man finds your campsite, and subscribe if you enjoy this type of content, as we have much more to dive into. Until next time, I'm Richie, and this has been
Rich seas go.